the homeless policy, what we heard was that for certain kinds of projects, specifically permanent supportive housing, there is a need for pre-development assistance because those are expensive to work on the pre-development. It is hard to find that money, and so to support the governor's housing policy, we made a small allocation of pre-development funds in this year's home program. And we have not had any takers because by home regulations, pre-development funds are limited to certified CHODOs. So we have not yet had any takers, but it'll be important for us to know whether that's important to you all for us to continue offering that.
Right, and I missed on the slide, I should have put up there that it's really limited to proposed permanent support housing projects. Yes?
So the only difference between the two, because they're really both support.
Yeah,
right?
This is project cost, the other is operating support.
It would be like architectural work, soil testing, site exploration, and the other one is to pay the operating costs of your organization.
Because the other one also, you had a bullet that said must result in home-funded project.
Both of them, yeah.
So any other comments or suggestions, questions? Okay. So here's how critical are the CHODO pre-development funds. 1, again, is not critical. 5 is very critical. Any other comments or suggestions related to pre-development? Yes.
It's just a general question. Willie, if you were asked for, if an organization was asked for additional information as it relates to recertification for CHODO, when would you, I mean, can you just assume that you've been kind of recertified, or when would you expect to hear feedback from DHCD on that?
That's a good question. I would have to actually check, but all of our CHODOs who were on the books, at one point we went through your initial certification process, so we collected a lot of data. Now there's two things that has happened since that. Our office has moved, and then the HUD folks looked at us and said, where's all your original documentation on, the board makeup, et cetera, et cetera. Since then, all of you all who were originally certified CHODOs have basically gone through a recertification process. It's been fairly innocuous, where you basically are certifying that you've done certain activities and that there's been no changes in structure. So at this point, we don't anticipate any of the additional requested information changing that status. We just have to actually verify, 1, that it's still the case, and then 2, document that we have it on file. For any CHODO who, and I'm going to probably say, I could probably realistically say by mid-February, there's going to be follow-up with a recertification, a formal letter. And for any CHODO who's unable to provide that information, you'll be given additional instructions.
Right, and ultimately, when we make an offer or funding commitment, whether it's CHODO operating, pre-development, or project funding to a CHODO, we at that point have to certify that you are still legitimately a CHODO. So it may be that you send this in and we're saying your certification's good, but still, later on, 6 months later, you come in with a project and we may have to, we will have to review and make sure nothing's changed. So this becomes a little bit more of a fluid thing and not an annual recertification thing. So it's that time of project or commitment that we have to swear that you still meet all the criteria.
So the good news as a result of that is there'll be more interaction as a result of this revised process versus just here's all the information once a year and then you don't hear from us again for another year.
That's okay. I just want to make sure that we can confidently say that yes, we are indeed a CHODO, even though we don't have anything written to say that.
But you will soon. You will soon.
Okay, thank you.
So the next slide is just simply, do you have, I mean, you know, like Shay said, I think I've said, you know, we've got a lot of work between now and the action plan to come up with, you know, the proposed allocation of the home funds. You know, we've got a lot of feedback to gather and thought to put into it, research. So do you have any other comments?
Is the chance that Bob was talking about where you really wipe the slate clean and go back, is that likely for the 12 of 13?
Yeah, the issue with that is that we will be going into year 5 of 5, so it's kind of a little awkward timing-wise, you know.
Well, it's 5 of 5 of our consolidated plan.
Right.
But as nothing is off of the table. Nothing's on the table, nothing's off the table. So we have not made any decisions.
And if I could just make a comment, I think that, you know, to embark upon something that dynamic, that different from what we're doing now, but really takes some careful thought and analysis. And so certainly something that can be looked at going into the next planning cycle, which that's just my opinion, but I think that would be a more realistic time frame for something of that magnitude.
Yes.
One thing, when I was looking over the home program activity funding over the last 4 years, it appears that all the funding was either remained the same or actually increased in all other areas other than down payment assistance was significantly reduced. And considering home ownership as being one of the things that is cited to help the tax base, that if it's one of the things that's going to help the economy on a whole to recover, why would that be ever a consideration to be reduced?
And frankly, that was reduced very specific to the market at that time because it was hard to get it spent during that time frame. So,
Well, please call us. We'll be happy to spend it.
so any other general comments? And remember, you know, this is not it. We have a Roanoke input session. We're going to have an online survey.